Shining a bright red as always is I, Red Luster. Welcome back to the analysis series for the survivors. Today's survivor is going to be Meg and her perks. Her perks consist of Quick and Quiet, Sprint Burst, and Adrenaline. So we're going to start things off with her weakest perk, Quick and Quiet. Now, my opinion on this perk is that it's a gimmick, but it's a gimmick that can work pretty consistently. And it has a lot of synergy with other perks that deal with getting into lockers and such. The only downside to this perk is that it takes 30 seconds to, recharge and be used again. And it will always be used by any action you commit that makes a loud sound, such as quickly jumping over a window or quickly jumping into a locker. The moment you do that, Quick and Quiet will activate and silence it. So, if you're trying to save this perk for any particular situation, try to avoid jumping windows or jumping into lockers quickly, unless you want to use it there and then. Overall, I wouldn't say Quick and Quiet is an overpowered perk. I wouldn't say it's an underpowered perk either. I'd say it's a fairly balanced perk for the most part. Maybe the downside could be just a little bit longer, but aside from that, I don't think Quick and Quiet is that bad of a perk. I think the other perks that get matched up with it are the ones that probably need to be scrutinized a little bit, like Head On or the other perk, Inner Strength. But Quick and Quiet by itself is fine. It's an okay perk. It's really good for messing with the killer, messing with their head, because a lot of killers rely on sound. So when you take that from them, you can pull some pretty tricky moves with it. But if the killer can see you, then it doesn't help you too much at all. Or if there's only real one way you could have gone, then it also doesn't. I'd say overall it's an okay perk. It's got good synergy with other perks, but by itself, not a problem. Now we're going to move on to Sprint Burst. And Sprint Burst is one of many exhaustion perks. And what that means is that once you use it, you will get the exhausted effect for 60 seconds, which prevents any other perks that cause the exhaustion effect from being used. The only exception is Adrenaline, but we'll get into that later when we talk about Adrenaline. Now, Sprint Burst pretty much makes it so that if you aren't exhausted, the moment you start running, you're going to go super fast for a few seconds. Which is why it's called Sprint Burst. You'll basically start moving really quickly. Sprint Burst is a really good perk. I use it personally a lot. I used to not use it at all because my opinion for all the exhaustion perks is that they're all really crutches. And like I said, I use Sprint Burst a lot. I don't think I'm an amazing survivor, so I kind of personally need the crutch. But if it were removed, I wouldn't be too heartbroken about it at all. Like I don't like exhaustion perks. I think they're pretty overpowered. Even with the exhaustion nerf they got, where you can't regain it during chase, wasn't enough. I really think exhausted should be a little bit more effective at regulating the strength of these perks. But Sprint Burst, how you want to use it is you want to save it until a killer shows up, and then you can use it to get away from them really quickly. As a killer, seeing a survivor with Sprint Burst is a little bit annoying, because most of the time you see them just immediately speed away from you, so you just kind of give up on them and maybe chase someone else. If you don't like being chased a lot, Sprint Burst is a really good perk, because like I said, a lot of killers, when they see you sprint burst away, they just immediately give up on you unless they don't have anyone else to chase. So it's a pretty good perk. Like I said, I don't like exhaustion perks and overall because I don't like what they do and I don't like how meta they are, but a lot of people like to say that sprint burst is probably the worst of them because you can't run without always being exhausted or losing your sprint burst, but there are ways around that, such as 99%ing the exhausted status effect, so that when you start walking for a second, you lose it, and then you can sprint burst on the spot. But overall, sprint burst is just a really good perk. Not much more else to say. I mean, it is the exhaustion perk, and exhaustion perks are pretty strong. I'd definitely say they probably need one more little nerf, just one little more, just like small nerf to just kind of stop the abuse that they often get. Like that, like, okay. In my opinion, if you run at any point while you're exhausted, you should slowly regain exhaustion. Not have it stop where it is, because, like I said, you can just 99% your exhaustion, then start running around, and then the moment you need it, you just stop moving for a split second, and then sprint burst away. So it's kind of easy to abuse, you know. But if you made it so that you always regain exhaustion while running, you wouldn't be able to abuse it nearly as much. It'd be a lot easier to use it as it's intended, to quickly get away from a particular spot. But moving on, we got Adrenaline, another really powerful perk. Adrenaline only activates once the last generator or the hatch is closed, basically when endgame starts. Now, Adrenaline, as soon as the endgame starts, will give you a speed boost for 5 seconds and instantly heal you 1 health state. Now, what one health state means is that if you're dying, you'll go to injured, and if you're injured, you'll go to healthy. If you're already healthy when this perk activates, then that's it. You just get the speed boost. But if you're downed on the ground, it will pick you up off the ground, allowing you to run away. And it will also heal you if you're injured at any point. So if the killer knocks you down and picks you up and puts you on a hook, and the last generator activates, even though you're on the hook, you're already healthy. Meaning once you come off that hook, you won't come off of it injured, you'll come off of it healthy. Which can really change the game, which is why I really don't like Adrenaline. I'd say it's pretty overpowered. Now, I know, you're technically playing the whole game with only 3 perks, because Adrenaline doesn't work till endgame starts, but instantly healing 1 health state is really, really strong. I mean, this is why, insta-heals got nerfed as bad as they did, because they were too strong. Instantly gaining 1 health is really good. And especially with the meta now where generators are popped as quickly as they are, why wouldn't you run Adrenaline? It's free health and a free speed boost. And in some situations, Adrenaline can act like a borrowed time for yourself when you happen to be on the last hook and game starts. Because, like I said, if you're on the hook and Adrenaline activates, you'll go to healthy despite still being on the hook. I definitely say Adrenaline needs a nerf of some kind. If the generator meta stays as it is right now, it definitely needs a nerf. But I wouldn't really say what part of it needs to be nerfed. I think you should lose the instant health state and just focus on speed. Maybe you get a really Like, maybe lower the overall speed boost a little bit, but drastically increase its duration. I just, I really feel like the whole getting one free instant health is what makes this perk so powerful. And I feel like if you remove that and focus more emphasis on the speed boost, it wouldn't be nearly as meta as it is now. But it's hard to say. Personally, like, this whole analysis thing is my personal opinion. Alright, so take that as it is. I'm not an expert on balancing things, but with how often people use adrenaline and how game changing it can be, I definitely say it deserves at least a look at, you know? Like, something. It needs something to make it not so good. Like, you're pretty much crippling yourself if you pick anything other than adrenaline. I mean, there's a lot of really good survivor perks, and you could argue some are better than adrenaline, but adrenaline is just really good. Like, just even if you're not injured, that really fast speed boost out of nowhere can get you out of chases you would have died in, or just get you to the exit gate faster. Plus, if you're injured and there's only like one generator left, why would you bother healing when you can just do the generator, get the free health, and then speed off to the exit gate and start opening it? Like, I definitely do think adrenaline should be looked at. At some point, it needs to be considered. Especially with how the meta is now, with how fast generators get completed, adrenaline almost always activates every game. Only on games where, like, only in games where killers somehow dominate and, like, are able to stop the gens from popping, which rarely happens, by the way, unless the survivors are not that good at the game. Then, but even then, like, if you're the last survivor and the killer finds the hatch and closes it, you still get the free health and speed boost. And if it's a really big map against a killer that doesn't have a speed, like a mobile power, like let's say you're going against Myers on Temple of Purgation. If those doors spawn really far away from each other, the Myers pretty much has no hope of catching you before you open it, especially if you have adrenaline, boosting you to the door that's furthest away from them, and giving you that free health that allows you to get that little bit of buffer in, you know? Overall, I'd say Meg's perks are... I'd say they're pretty powerful. They're really good, especially in the meta. And Sprint Burst and Adrenaline, they're just really good perks. They're so good. I do personally think they need to be nerfed at least a little bit, at least in this game's current meta. But at least Quick and Quiet's pretty balanced for the most part. It only really becomes a problem when you pair it up with other perks. So, yeah. This has been Red Luster, signing out.